We continue with the book of Psalms, the fourth chapter, Perek Daled. And like the last chapter, this chapter also begins with an introduction, Lamnatzech b'neginot mizmor liDavid. So unlike the last chapter where the introduction was about when or about what historical event the chapter was about, this chapter's introduction is about the musical idea of the psalm of the chapter. Not idea may be the wrong way about what it means. So Lamnatzech b'neginot, it was for the leader. Niginot is a hard word to explain exactly what it means. Lamnatzech also, but Niginot refers to some sort of musician, whether it's the leader of the musician, whether it's multiple musicians or multiple different melodies that would come. Lamnatzech also, there are numerous different interpretations of what Lamnatzech means. There are those who say it refers to the word netzach, strength, that it's about playing the musicians, the Levites who played vigorously. There are others who see it just as related to a type of music, or is it so there are a variety of different interpretations. And Mizmor LeDavid, is it a psalm that David wrote? Was it a psalm that was written for David, written specifically for him, written about an episode of his life? We don't know, but what's clear is that this was once upon a time the words were set to music, which we'll see as well with the word that we discussed yesterday, the word Selah, which we have mentioned. Also difficult word to understand what it means, but it is a musical notation. So verse 2, and here the Mizmor, the capital begins. B'kar'i aneni Elohi, tzidki basar hirchavtali, chaneni ushmat tfilati. So the author is calling out to God, right? God, my vindicator, right? When I call out to you, God, you respond to me. You are tzedek. You are righteous. You are my vindicator. You free me from distress, right? Rochev, you make things wider when things are batzar. Batzar means to be narrow. Harchev is to make things narrow, to make things wider. Batzar is like the word Mitzrayim, min ha-meitzar. Mitzrayim represents the idea of narrow, the idea of being pushed in and not having space to live. So when I am in a narrow place, God, you strengthen me, you let me, you widen me out. So have mercy on me, God, and hear my prayer. B'nei ish admech vodi lichlima havun rik tivakshu chazav sela. So he seemingly here, David is now spoken to God, and now he addresses the enemies. You men, how long will you mock? Will my glory be mocked? Right, kvodi, the same word he used in the last chapter. You have your illusions. You think that you're going to take revenge against me. You want recourse against me. You're all frauds. And then we have the word Selah. So some sort of musical notation. Maybe the melody switched at this point. How it would have switched, I don't know. So David first speaks to God. God, I know you got my back, and therefore all of you people who think you're going to do something to me, it's not going to happen. Those are your illusions and delusions. There are those who say that this was a chapter composed by David in regards to his running away from Shaul when his father-in-law wanted to kill him, because his father-in-law correctly believed that David would be the next king. Continuing in verse 4. Udu'u ki hifla Adonai chasid lo Adonai yishma b'kariyei lav. He's saying also seemingly to the people who want to injure him, know that God singles out the faithful for himself. And David, of course, we know, had his discretions, had his mistakes, but he was always with God, right? God will hear when I call to him. David is very much in the belief that God will call back to him. And so here in verse 4 of chapter 4, that is again what he expresses, this idea of God being together with him. Verse 5, which is probably the most well-known verse in this chapter. It's like yesterday we talked about there were verses that were in the Kriyat Shema al Hamita, the prayers that we say when we go to sleep, and this one as well. Rigzu v'al techetu imru bilvavchem al mishkavchem v'domu selah. Tremble and sin no more. Say it in your hearts, or think about it on your bed. And think about that. And then Selah, again, the second Selah, the second sort of musical notation where it's going to switch. into some sort of different musical interlude. I don't know exactly, but obviously a switch of melody, a switch of the way they play, a switch. I can't tell you how. Now, this is a verse. It's basically understood and described, right? You go
Here,
down to sleep at night, similar to what we said yesterday. You go down to sleep at night, and when you go down to sleep at night, you think about all the things you did during the day, the things that you did wrong, right? So rigzu, biroges, broigus, right? When you're angry. So you might have been angry during the day, but al techatu, don't sin, right? Say that to yourself. Think about what you did, ponder it, think about the way that you behaved at night, sort of the way that there are Jews who every day do what's called a cheshbon hanefesh. They think about, what did I do today? An accounting of the soul. Think about it. And if you think about it in your bed, then maybe you'll feel calm. Maybe you'll be able to go to sleep, and you'll be able to leave your worries behind. Different ways of understanding this verse, but it's as many have said, don't go to sleep angry. It's not good for you. So when you were beroges, don't sin upon it, forget it, leave it behind, ponder other things perhaps that you can do. Then you'll sleep and you can wake up the next day refreshed. Continue in verse 6. Zivchu zivchei tzedek uvitchu el Adonai. Offer sacrifices in righteousness and trust in God. So, right, we've gone from al techatu to tzedek to righteousness. Just have faith and trust and belief in God, moving away from the troubles. David, we know, as expressed earlier, he believes that David has trust in God and knows that God will be with him. Rabim omrim mi yar'eni tov nisei aleinu or panecha Adonai. Many people say, oh, the good days, bestow your favor. Right? Many people remember the things that were good. So God, come back and make things good again. There's a lot of nostalgia in the world for things that were good in the past. Natata simcha v'libi me'et diganam v'tirosham rabu. You put joy into my heart when their grain and wine increased, right? People are happy when they have enough food. Today, the issues that we have in the Western world, at least, are not a lack of food. There's nobody's really starving, unless it's sort of because of mental illness. It's a lack of nutrition. Back then, it wasn't nutritional insecurity. It wasn't that they were eating McDonald's, which was not real. It's not sort of real food or whatnot, or Cheetos or whatever it might be. I like to mention everything that's not kosher. The things that they were worried about then was having enough food to make it through the winter. So joy was in my heart when the grain increased, when there was wine, when there was enough food. I had faith in you, God. And the idea of food in Israel, we've talked about this in the past, of course, is the Israel is contrasted to Egypt. Egypt was the breadbasket. Egypt had the irrigation of the Nile, so people weren't so worried about food in Egypt during the famines. Where do all the patriarchs and matriarchs, where do they go when there's a famine? Avram goes to Egypt. Yitzchak's on his way to Egypt. Yaakov goes to Egypt. That's where they go over and over again. Israel's not like that. There's real joy and delight when there is enough food. We're thanking you, God, because we know we are dependent upon you, God, for rain in the land of Israel if we want food. So expressing the appreciation for God, especially somebody who, if this chapter is about David, when he's being chased by Shaul, he's on the run. He's not sure. He's not clear. Where's he going to be? There are people who want to hurt him. There are people who want to get to him. So he trusts in God and he remembers the days. Perhaps, God, I remember when things were good. And if we think about David's life for a moment, David's life, everything looks perfect. David was beloved by God. David had this charm. Everybody loved David. It's not clear that David loved everybody, but early we see Shaul loves David. Michal, the daughter of Shaul, loves David. Avshalom, the son of Shaul, loves David. The people sing the praises of David publicly. That's where Shaul starts to get upset at him when they say, do they write Shaul kills by the thousands and David by the tens of thousands? Everybody loves David. We don't necessarily see David's ahava and love to everybody else. But everything's fine. He's in the palace. He's the son-in-law. He's the chief musician. He's the general of the army. Everything looks like it's perfect. God has told him he's going to be king, and everything looks like that trajectory is straight up. And then his father-in-law wants to kill him. And then he has to run away from home. And then, there may have been a little bit of, well, what's going on here? Shmuel, the Navi, came. He poured the anointing oil on my head. I thought everything was going to be perfect. I thought I was on my way right there. Now there are these people who are coming to get me. I trust in you, God. I trust in you. But I remember how easy it seemed that I was going to get the kingship. I was married to I'm married to to the daughter of the king. It looked like it was perfect. It was easy. Not so simple. I trust in you, God, but I remember, the food that I have. I remember, when things were tove, when things were on its way, when God, you seemingly had his favor upon me. But despite the fact that I am in a troublesome situation, David is expressing in this chapter the idea that he believes that God is still with him. And let's look at verse 9 and conclude with that. Bishalom yachtav eshkeva v'ishan ki ata Adonai levadad levetach toshiveni. Safe and sound I lie down and sleep. For you alone, God, keep me secure. I'm on the run. Shaul wants to kill me. How are things going to be okay? I'm not sure that they will be. David says, I know they will be, because I put my faith, I put my trust in you, God. And thus I can leave everything behind. I don't have to worry about the anger. Maybe that's a personal moral anger. I don't have to worry about the worries of these people who are coming to get me, because I have the full faith in you, God, that you will restore me, that I will be back in the palace, that I will be back leading Bnei Yisrael, that I won't be on the run with, yes, I have some followers, 400 men or 600 men, talks about when David is running away from Shaul. He has people, the disgruntled, come and join him. And he begins to build a real great following, an entourage, a following, people who trust him, people who believe in him. But it was a scary time. And so if we understand this chapter in that way, which I think is a very good way of understanding it. And again, did David write it at that time? Was it written for David? Was it written after the fact? Did somebody come and then later place upon these words that this is the idea within this chapter? We don't know, but it brings a lot of sense to a chapter of a person who's in his worries. During the day, he's busy. He's running around. He's making sure nobody's getting to him. He's finding the places where they can get food, where they can get water. And then he goes down to sleep at night, and all the worries and all the nerves and all the questions that he has come to him. And ultimately expresses, it doesn't matter who's coming after me. I put my faith in God. And that's why I can lie down at night and know the next morning I will wake up. And it might be today, it might be tomorrow, it might be in a month, it might be in 6 months, it might be in a year, but I will be restored. I will be returned to that place and that trajectory of my life that I knew that I was on my way towards.